Eiji Aonuma has stated that the development of the next Zelda game has begun. And this is extremely exciting because they've gone on record previously saying that the Breath of the Wild is going to be the framework for all Zeldas going forward, or at least for the next few years, more than likely, before they try to innovate and come up with something new. Now, what this means is that we might be looking at a very quick release for the next Zelda game. If you look at this, is kind of the similar situation of what happened with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, where it's virtually the same game engine and just a completely different layout. And that game, I believe, was created in a year or just over a year, and then released. It came out in 2000, 2 years after Ocarina of Time. So what we potentially could be seeing is maybe another 2-year possibility for a new Zelda game for a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, which would be outstanding. And I feel like they have the proper framework for how they can do this. There's also a lot of rumors circulating and going around right now that there is the possibility of some more DLCs for Breath of the Wild, which is a good thing. If you have a game this successful and this just widely loved, you want to kind of keep the fan base engaged with it, and just keep a stable player base with it. Not that there's not plenty to do in the game, that's for fucking sure. But so this is how the Zelda development over the last couple years has looked. After Skyward Sword released in 2011, development on Breath of the Wild began. And in that time, we got a whole lot of Zelda games. We got A Link Between Worlds. We got Wind Waker HD. We got Triforce Heroes, Hyrule Warriors, even on the 3DS as well. But they're not really Zelda games. Twilight Princess HD. Majora's Mask 3D. I don't think I said that one yet. But anyways, the point is we've gotten almost a Zelda game every year since Skyward Sword. Just about. I believe 2012 we didn't get one, and I think 2012 was the only year that we didn't get a Zelda game. At least that I can remember. I'm just firing from the hip here. But what we could be seeing here is the way that this worked is they had a huge development team for Breath of the Wild to get this grandiose game put together, because it was a brand new engine, brand new physics engines. They worked from the ground up on this game to get it to this point. And it took them about 3 years to get to a point to where they could show it off at the E3 presentation in 2014. Or the showcase in 2014, whichever one it was that they did that year. So what we could be looking at here is the possibility. I mean, it's just speculation that DLC packs could be coming still, because of what the Explorer's Guide stated, the first 2 expansions. So how they did the games is the core of the team developed Breath of the Wild, while other assets of the team worked on the remakes and helped make all these other Zelda games that were out there and that were released. So what we could be seeing here is the potential of the vast majority of the team working on a potential Breath of the Wild sequel, while the other part of the team, a smaller group of people, work on DLC content for steady release for Breath of the Wild, which I believe would be a great plan and a great roadmap for this game, because Breath of the Wild it's getting Game of the Year from just about everybody, from every reputable news source, gaming news source, or just anywhere that has any acclaim. Anyways, so it makes a lot of sense for them to keep their momentum going, and this would also help push Switch sales forward and just keep a healthy life on the Switch, because there's a lot of concern about the Switch's lifespan going into the next few years, because you came out of the gate with a Zelda game and a Mario game, and you got Kirby, and you got the Yoshi game and a Pokemon game coming out next year. But what after that? Metroid is probably really the only thing, and that's if it comes out in 2019, because I really doubt it's coming out next year. So keeping a steady flow like this would make a lot of sense for them from a business standpoint, so they can keep an engaged player base for one of their biggest titles on their console. But this is where we kind of get into the tinfoil hat speculation part of this video. What could we see from a Breath of the Wild sequel? There's a lot of last year there was a lot of debate and communication around the potential of having a female lead for the Zelda series. And while I've gone on record saying that I don't want... Link is an established character. We don't need to toy with him when we have a very, very underutilized female character whose name shares the title of the series, who has a lot of interesting character development that can be furthered. I wonder who I could be talking about. Let's get Zelda! A playable Zelda in the sequel. Like, that would be awesome. This could be a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild where you play as Zelda and you go around and you rebuild the Kingdom of Hyrule. You have all this amazing Guardian technology that is just waiting to be used. If you can make a fucking motorcycle, like, your possibilities are endless at that point. If we're going to put a motorcycle in the Zelda series, let's just really go crazy with it. They've talked about the idea of having a female lead for the Zelda series, and they said that they haven't, that it's not a direct focus for them. But I think this could be really cool, and they're all about changing the conventions of Zelda, as we've seen with Breath of the Wild. So what could be more unconventional than having Zelda take the manifold, and then just having this as just a recreation of Hyrule? And this would give you plenty of opportunity to expand the Yiga clan and to really bring in some new enemies and some new villains and just really kind of get crazy and creative with it. It'll give you more opportunity to expand upon the story, which I know is the biggest gripe that most people have with Breath of the Wild, myself included, although I did thoroughly enjoy it and had I'm not hard to please when it comes to Zelda because I'm just such a big old fan for it. So, but this would give a lot of opportunity story-wise to really kind of create a more cohesive and in-depth narrative that a lot of people felt was lacking in Breath of the Wild. And if it's one thing I've noticed about A.J. Allen Newman and the Zelda team is that they take their criticisms to fucking heart. And they are one of the most very vocal and I told you so and like, oh hey look, well we're gonna fucking prove you wrong type development teams, because I know of 2 instances off the top of my head to where fans had some sort of backlash or outrage about something that they did, and the next Zelda game that came out was directly influenced by that. When Wind Waker came out, people were upset because it looked too childish and that it was just too it wasn't mature enough and all of this. And they were already in the development of another Wind Waker style game, and they scrapped it to make the dark, in my opinion, masterpiece that is Twilight Princess. I know I'm going to get reamed for that one. I love Twilight Princess. That was my first Zelda, so you got to cut me a little slack there. They listened to the outcry of people saying that, oh, it's not mature enough, and then they went on to create probably the darkest or maybe second darkest behind Majora's Mask Zelda game that has ever been created. Certainly, it's the only Zelda game that is rated teen. It's the most mature Zelda game. And if we look at Skyward Sword, what's the biggest complaint about Skyward Sword? Way too linear, not enough to do, not open enough. And here we have Breath of the Wild, the most open fucking game that you can possibly come to, that has a cohesive narrative or has some sort of a narrative or direction to it that isn't just an open world, randomly generated fucking type of game. So what we can see here is that they take their gripes to heart, or they take the gripes of the fans to heart. And the biggest complaint by far is that the story just wasn't in depth. So I definitely feel like for the next Zelda game, what we're going to see is a heavily narrative-focused game that is going to be in the same style as Breath of the Wild. The question now is what kind of direction they want to take with it. And it's really up in the air. It's anybody's guess at this point, because Who would have thought that they would have done some of the things that they did in Breath of the Wild? You know, I never in my life would have thought a motorcycle would have been in a Zelda game. And here we're at that point right now. So it's really anybody's guess what this next game could look like. I really hope that it is a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, to where we are rebuilding the Kingdom of Hyrule. And I think that would be a fantastic addition to this story and to these open world saga type games that is Breath of the Wild right now, or if they add to it. Because God knows I can use some more Zelda in my life, and everybody is enjoying this game so far, and it makes no sense not to just add on to it and just to, keep it going. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you would love to see in a Zelda sequel, or in a Breath of the Wild sequel, I should say. What are some things that you would like them to improve upon for the next title? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the love and support that you guys have been giving me. Thanks for the 200 plus of you that have subscribed to me over the last 2 weeks from the Destiny video. And thanks to you that are not being completely blinded by your love of Destiny and fanboyish ways and telling me to kill myself. Your lack of hostility towards me is very much appreciated. But anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. As always, I love you, and thank you so much for tuning in to my subpar shitty content. I'll see you guys in the next video.